Hi there, this is Tom North. If you like this recording, please like and subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date with all of my latest work.
Chapter 2, Part 1. Oh my goodness, the sky felt light. Sorry mate, there's nothing we can get you doing. Everyone's gone home for the day. He stared at me with a mixture of admiration and bewilderment. Come on man, I'm here, get me to do some shoveling or something. Anything. You don't want to waste a day's labour. I'll do it for half pay even. Just give me something. It's nearly 3 anyway, mate. No point getting you on anything now. Come back tomorrow and I'm sure we'll have something for you. The more he refused, the more my feet dug into the dirt of the building site. I was not going anywhere until I'd earned at least £1 today. Come on, mate. I'm throwing myself at you here. Surely this something needs doing. See you tomorrow morning. I'm punching out for the day. He began to walk off towards the security hut at the entrance of the site. I couldn't believe it. I'd spent more money on another tube journey down here and still had nothing to show for it. Was I that much of a fucking turd that he wouldn't even let me work for next to nothing? I was taking it too personal. He clearly just wanted to get home early and didn't want to be stuck supervising some dickhead while he digs a few holes or lays a few bricks. It was all right for him. Probably had a sweet little missus and a dog to get back to. What did I have? You know the answer to that. I had nothing. My head hung down, the dirt on my boots waving at me. Little bits of stone were sticking into the mud like sprinkles on an ice cream, except less appetizing. This was defeat. No, it fucking wasn't. Yeah, it definitely was. I might have some work for you. A soft, posh voice pushed itself across the mud and stones. I looked around and saw a suit stood there, staring at me. He looked out of place, the black of his leather shoes floating on the gravel and dirt. His hair was slightly quiffed, and his eyes were cut like diamonds. A ring of black sucked the white-blue pigments into a spiral. I just stood there. I said I've got some work. I could do with some help in the office. Might not be what you're used to, but it'll pay the bills for a few days. Where did he even appear from? One moment I was stood in the grey mud on my own, the next he was stood there, hands gently resting on his hips, staring at me with a slight impatience. I've not got all day, mate. I'd rather not be stood out here in the cold. I'll be in that hut over there if you're up for it. No way was I built for an office job. Part 2. Paper. So much bloody paper I could barely breathe. Pages and pages spread out in every bloody corner of the room. This is why I never wanted to work in an office. Paper makes no sense. It's just endless sheets of useless information that have no bearing on reality. Bricks I can understand. Put one on top of the other and build a house. Nothing more simple than that. I don't know how many hours I'd been sat there sifting through that fucking paper. Tom his name was. He was a suit brought in to sort out the bureaucracy. Apparently there'd been some dodgy dealings going on with the planning permission and the finances. I didn't really understand what he was saying most of the time, but it sounded like someone was in serious trouble. He was quite stressed about it. He'd haul up a pile of documents onto the desk and sort through. Every time he found something he didn't like, he'd shake his head silently and run his fingers through his quiff, his eyes cutting holes in the paper. Something about being sat there in the heat of the porter cabin made me want to scream. I could feel my blood going stale from the putrid smell of busy work. The edges of my skin started to feel fuzzy, and my eyes could barely focus on the sheets. Every now and then he'd place his pen on the table. His hands would slink up behind his head, and he'd lean back into a stare, his eyes tickling across the room to me, saying a little hello. He looked nervous, and the slight squint of his eyelids betrayed a curiosity. He was a curiosity to me. He actually seemed to be enjoying this work. I could feel the buzz of electric through his muscles every time he learned something new, every time a document found its rightful place in the order of things. There was something quite sweet about him. He was a strange little filing elf with a twinkle in his thigh. Why was I looking between his legs? Fucking hell, I must have been bored. How long have you been doing this? I opted for small talk. He smirked at me.
Only about 2 years. I'm still fresh. What about you? Well, I don't really do this. Just doing odd jobs to earn some money, but I always seem to end up doing manual labour.
You've got the body for it, I suppose.
The words fell out, and then he realised what he'd said. He looked uncomfortable for a second. But only 1 second. Then that awkward squirm transformed into a strange arrogance. What was his game? Yeah, well, suppose you've got to use what God gave you. You've clearly got the brains. I couldn't deal with paperwork all day, I replied. Nah, it's easy really. The paper tells you everything you need to know. Just got to look for it and help it find its place. Exactly. Just one afternoon looking at this shit and I want to jump off a building. I had a weird admiration for him, but could feel my stomach turning at the look he was giving me. I wanted to run. Where did I want to run to? If I knew that, I probably would have done it. I could feel the blood rushing through me, pumping through my veins like a torrent. My balls gave out a heat. Sweat started to gather on them, and all I could think about was his tongue licking it all off. Fuck! What the fuck was this? He looked at his watch, then back at me, holding my stare like a big cat wanting to pounce. Then he spoke. Are you free to come back tomorrow? Yeah, I guess so. Not sure I'll be that much use to you though, mate. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. You're doing great. There's not a lot to it, honestly. Easy for you to say. I don't have your education. His eyes rested on me, and he seemed to consider my words carefully. Well, honestly, I wouldn't pin your hopes on labouring here. Between you and me, the site is probably going to get shut down. They don't have planning permission for the works here, so it's only a matter of time before the council closes in and issues an enforcement notice. He picked up his pen from the desk and started fiddling with it. Well, that's fine. I'll just find another site. This is just to tide me over anyways. That's fine, but if this place has to be closed, the construction company will probably go bust, so it'll be a while before any big projects are happening in the area. So what you're saying is I'm fucked. He sucked in a breath of air and showed his teeth. Well, you'll be all right. Like you said, this is just to tide you over, right? You've got bigger things on the horizon. That felt like a slap around the face. He didn't think I was capable of shit, talking to me like some idiot with no more than 2 brain cells to rub together. I don't need to be here, mate, I said as my tattooed muscles tensed. His face recoiled slightly. I wasn't taking the piss. I'm just saying things could wrap up here really quick if you're not careful. I don't need your advice, mate. I'm not some scrubber. The look of him there in his suit ignited a fire in my gut. The muscles in his face relaxed, and the brown of his hair stood stone still. I could hear a slight bristle from his blazer rubbing against his shirt, but that was it. The rest of the room sat silent. His eyelids closed slowly, then opened, before his body hunched back over the paper on the desk, and our interaction was over.